welcome to the deep dive. If you're listening right now, you exist in a time of just unprecedented material abundance.
Truly.
I mean, compared to almost any generation before us, we have more access to technology, comfort, knowledge, things that historical royalty couldn't even have dreamed of.
And yet?
And yet the data tells this really confusing story. Statistically, we're more anxious, we're more stressed, and often feel less satisfied than past generations. Why does all this abundance seem to breed anxiety?
It's the ultimate modern paradox, isn't it? And what's so fascinating is that this is not a new problem. We did a deep dive into sources centering on some ancient wisdom, specifically the 5th chapter of Ecclesiastes.
Right.
And the author, people often call him the teacher. He confronts this exact tension.
So the sources suggest he saw this dynamic, the emptiness that follows accumulation millennia ago.
That's it.
Our mission today is to extract 7 essential and surprisingly modern lessons from this chapter that really address our priorities. It's basically a blueprint for satisfaction.
But it's a blueprint that directly confronts our modern cultural mindset.
Because it involves our priorities.
Exactly. If you look at our culture, we tend to approach the sacred or the spiritual very casually, right? It's an optional add-on, maybe a Sunday routine.
But we pursue wealth and status obsessively.
And the text says you have to do the complete inverse of that.
Yeah.
You approach the sacred with deep reverence, and you treat the pursuit of wealth with caution and skepticism.
And the teacher doesn't really ease us into this, does he? He just sets the stakes immediately with that stark contrast.
God is in heaven and you are on earth, so let your words be few.
That contrast in scale, infinite holiness versus our finite humanity, that's the starting point for everything else we're going to talk about.
It frames the whole discussion.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with how we should approach the divine. Our first lesson is all about the discipline of reverence, not presumption. The text opens with this really practical instruction that just cuts against the grain of our quick fix culture. It says, guard your steps when you go to the house of God. Go near to listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools.
And the key distinction here is between intentionality and just empty routine. A wise person approaches with humility, with a quiet readiness, and a deep intention to actually receive something. They guard their steps, which means they prepare their mind and their heart.
And the sacrifice of fools.
It's just performing a ritual, making noise, checking a box, but without actually engaging or understanding the purpose behind it. It's performance, not submission.
That really speaks to the issue of showing up to important things, whether it's worship, a tough conversation, even a critical meeting, with our minds just totally preoccupied and scattered.
Yeah, you're physically there, but mentally absent.
We offer that sacrifice of fools when we put in the physical time, but zero mental preparation.
That's a great modern parallel. The teacher is fundamentally forcing us to reckon with the scale of things.
Right.
If you really recognize that the Creator, who is infinite and sovereign, is in heaven, and you, this finite creature, are on earth, well, that reality alone should impose a natural restraint on you.
So a lack of reverence isn't just bad spirituality.
No, it's a lack of grasp on reality itself. The practical application is radical in its simplicity. Slow down, turn off the noise, quiet your mind, and come ready to listen. That discipline solves a lot of decision fatigue later on.
Okay, so if reverence is about our posture or recognition of scale, then the text immediately asks what comes out of that posture. And that brings us to point 2. Words before God matter. We're explicitly told to let your words be few.
Which feels so timely in our age of endless digital chatter and performative communication.
It really does.
The core of this lesson is quality over quantity, and it connects directly to sincerity. The teacher warns against the person who multiplies words.
So rambling, repetitive prayers.
Yeah, or just casual commitments spoken without any real sincerity. Maybe you're trying to impress other people or just fill the silence. The source is clear. This is useless.
I think we all recognize that trap. You feel like you have to keep talking to make sure you've covered all the bases.
Of course.
But the instruction here seems to be that a few sincere, weighty words are just exponentially better than a lot of empty ones.
Absolutely. If you truly grasp the magnitude of the Creator, your natural response is restraint, not chatter. The author suggests that excessive talk is actually a sign of foolishness.
The result of a mind filled with many dreams, as he puts it.
Exactly. If the mind is clear, focused, humble, the words will be few and powerful. Sometimes just recognizing the immense weight of that relationship means that silence is the only appropriate response.
And that deep respect for sincerity, it logically transitions into lesson 3, which is about the severity of keeping your vows.
Yes, your commitments.
The language here about making promises is surprisingly severe. The text says it's better not to vow at all than to make a vow and not fulfill it promptly.
Right.
Why does the teacher prioritize non-commitment over a commitment that fails?
Because a failed vow devalues the entire concept of commitment itself. The teacher sees a vow, especially one made to God, as a binding, almost legally enforceable contract.
So breaking it isn't just a mistake.
It's a deliberate act of disrespect, of deceit.
So it's not just about what you give up, it's about the integrity of your word. If we think about that in a modern context, it's like signing a mortgage and then just casually walking away from it.
That's exactly right. The consequences aren't just relational, they're systemic. The sources are very specific in cautioning against what are often called crisis vows.
Foxhole vows.
With the foxhole vows, yeah. Those promises we make when we're desperate for a quick fix, which we then conveniently forget once the danger passes. The warning is clear. God takes your words seriously. We will be held accountable for our intentional commitments. It forces you, the listener, to be deeply thoughtful before you ever make a serious promise.
Okay, so if we've established this posture of reverence and integrity in our personal lives, the discussion shifts to the wider world. And that's lesson 4. Don't be surprised by injustice.
A very sobering shift.
It is. The teacher offers this remarkably blunt acknowledgement of systemic issues. He sees oppression and the denial of justice everywhere.
And he even explains the mechanism behind it. Officials watch other officials in a corrupt hierarchy.
So he's not just complaining.
No, he's dissecting the system. This corrupt hierarchy, it isn't random, it's layered. The sources explain that lower officials oppress people because they know they have protection from above.
And the higher-ups.
The higher officials tolerate it or even encourage it because it ensures loyalty and maintains their own power base.
So it's institutional corruption, where oversight is neutralized because everyone has a stake in protecting the system.
Depressingly recognizable in any time period.
Yeah.
And the teacher's observation here is so crucial because it manages our expectations. He is not endorsing evil, not at all. But he is acknowledging reality. Sin permeates all human systems.
So while we have to work against injustice...
And we must. We absolutely must. But we also have to recognize that the expectation of perfect justice in this world is flawed. We shouldn't be shocked when human systems fail. That perfect justice, it awaits a higher authority.
It prevents us from falling into that paralyzing cynicism.
Exactly.
And that sets the stage perfectly for what the sources frame as our modern inverse obsession. Lesson 5. Money never satisfies.
This is probably the most quoted and timely section of the whole chapter.
Whoever loves money never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income.
This ancient observation is so acutely relevant to our modern epidemic of anxiety. We have all this unprecedented wealth, yet the pursuit of more has never been fiercer. The teacher confirms what so many people who achieve great wealth privately realize. Money cannot satisfy the soul. It sets up this vicious cycle.
What today we'd call the hedonic treadmill.
The hedonic treadmill.
Okay, let's stop there. I want to challenge that because surely this text isn't saying wealth is inherently evil. What if the money is used for good, for charity, for creating jobs?
That's a vital distinction, and it's a great question.
Where does the source draw the line between honest stewardship and this dangerous love of money?
The focus is never on the quantity of money, but on the love of it. It's about positioning it as your primary goal, your source of security, the measure of your self-worth. It's an issue of worship.
An issue of worship.
Yes. If you put your hope in money, the teacher predicts 3 immediate paradoxes will pop up, regardless of how ethically you got it.
Okay, tell us about those paradoxes, because we tend to think wealth solves problems.
But the teacher says it creates new ones. The first is consumption. The more you have, the more people metaphorically or literally come to consume it.
Your circle of dependence or just expenses?
Exactly. The expenses necessary to maintain your new status taxes, accountants, security, staff, they all expand to meet the wealth.
You're left with the same net satisfaction, but far more obligation.
That's the definition of lifestyle creep. You get a raise, but suddenly you need a nicer car, a bigger house, and those things just absorb the increase.
Leaving you right where you started on the satisfaction scale. Exactly. The second paradox is anxiety. Wealth leads directly to sleepless nights. The text highlights worry about potential loss, the stress of just maintaining it all, the constant fear of being defrauded.
The poor laborer sleeps soundly, but the rich man's abundance.
Will not let him sleep. Money, when it's loved, becomes a very poor master. It's an unreliable source of security that demands constant vigilance.
So the pursuit of more just deepens the hole of dissatisfaction. You're constantly running just to stand still, trying to maintain a status that gives you no real security anyway. It's an addiction loop. It is. The teacher is urging us to look beyond the immediate hit of gratification from acquiring something and see the long-term emotional and spiritual cost.
So if money can't satisfy the soul, the question remains, where does contentment come from?
And that's the pivot.
If avoiding the money trap is lesson 5, then the pivot point of the whole chapter is lesson 6. Enjoyment of life is God's gift. And this feels like the antidote to all that anxiety we just described.
It's a massive shift. The teacher is suggesting that true satisfaction is not achieved through accumulation, but through reception.
Through reception.
Yeah. The ability to actually enjoy your work, your food, your possessions, to sit down at a normal, well-earned meal and feel genuinely grateful, that is a direct gift from God.
I think this is where it gets really profound for the listener, because two people can have the exact same income and possessions. One is miserable, constantly comparing themselves to the next tier up.
And the other is joyful.
Right. And the difference isn't in what they possess externally, but in their ability to receive their life right now as a valuable gift.
That is the core insight. Contentment is fundamentally more valuable than abundance.
Because it's a spiritual orientation, not a financial one.
Exactly. The person pursuing accumulation is always miserable because their gaze is fixed on what they lack. But the person practicing gratitude focuses on what they've been given. They stop comparing. They stop running. They simply receive.
Which means the difference between a joyful life and a perpetually anxious one isn't necessarily some massive financial win.
No.
It's the quiet, daily decision to acknowledge the value of the ordinary things we already have. A quiet evening, a satisfying day at work, time with people we love.
Yes. You could call it an act of profound gratitude that breaks the spell of that hedonic treadmill. You can only step off the treadmill when you realize the prize you were chasing was actually something you already held in your hand, if only you had the grace to see it.
And that leads right into the final synthesized lesson, lesson 7. God keeps us occupied with gladness. When that gift of enjoyment is granted, the text says the recipient is kept occupied with gladness of heart, instead of dwelling on life's brevity and troubles.
And that defines joy so beautifully. The teacher knows life is hard. He knows trouble and brevity exist. Joy isn't the absence of those problems.
It's the presence of God's grace enabling satisfaction despite the problems.
That's it. When you're focused on receiving the good things you have, you don't spend your time dwelling on the inevitable troubles or what you don't possess. Your focus is just. It's pulled toward gladness.
So what does this all mean practically for you, the listener? If we synthesize these 7 lessons, reverence, sincerity, commitment, accepting injustice, avoiding the money trap, receiving the gift of life, and finding gladness, what actionable framework jumps out?
It all boils down to a profound redirection of energy. First, prioritize reverence and integrity over casualness and broken promises.
Which means preparing your heart for spiritual practice and honoring your words seriously.
Yes, and on the financial front.
Which is the one most challenging to our modern norms.
It is. The directive is to cultivate contentment over accumulation. We have to start viewing money as a tool for meeting genuine needs and for blessing others, not as a primary goal or a source of ultimate security.
Our trust has to be placed elsewhere.
Elsewhere, not in the fluctuating market or the size of a portfolio. And finally, just find joy in simple things, the quiet pleasures that are not tied to consumerism.
So this entire deep dive, drawing from this ancient source, it really serves as a powerful call to move away from that cultural pattern of casual worship and obsessive pursuit of wealth
toward a posture of deep reverence and genuine contentment.
It suggests the path to reducing all this modern anxiety is actually counterintuitive. Focus less on increasing your bank balance and more on increasing your gratitude.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the teacher's offering a cure for dissatisfaction. By prioritizing spiritual humility reverence over financial security accumulation, the inevitable result is reduced anxiety and greater gladness. He shows that the most valuable things in life, the taste of food, the satisfaction of work, they are already gifts.
That's a powerful framework to end on. So here's a final thought for you to mull over this week. Building on this idea of receiving the ordinary, the teacher strongly advises finding joy in the simple, Everyday moments, a good meal, meaningful work, time with loved ones. What one simple everyday pleasure, something you usually rush through, like the first 5 minutes of quiet in the morning, or a truly satisfying cup of coffee, can you intentionally pause and receive with deep gratitude this week, recognizing its profound value over the constant desire for accumulation?
Let that simple act of reception be your most valuable possession this week. And on that note, we encourage you to continue exploring, learning, and diving deep into stories that inspire and challenge you. Until next time.